long ago, long before any of us could possibly remember, a great king built a kingdom. And he filled it with all the most beautiful plants and animals imaginable. It was a lush and fruitful place. There were giant trees that soared up into the sky, and there were tiny little flowers of every color in the rainbow. He created majestic mountain ranges and lush valleys that were full of green grass, and the water ran pure and clear there. It lacked nothing. He placed his first subjects in the midst of this wonderful kingdom and gave them free reign over everything they could see, with one exception. There was a particular boundary that they were not allowed to cross, and it was placed there for their own protection. The king was a very wise and wonderful ruler, and he wanted his subjects not only to obey him, as subjects should always obey their king, but he also wanted them to trust him, to have their best at heart always. But temptation is a powerful force. All you have to do to create desire in someone is set something before them and tell them they can't have it. Tell a toddler don't touch, and what's the one thing in the whole room they go after with a vengeance? For most of us, it's not until we experience the negative consequences of that boundary crossing that we ever begin to trust why the boundary was placed there in the first place. Well, you know this story. The boundary was crossed, and the consequences were set in motion. The subjects were thrown out of the kingdom and left to live with the results of their rebellion. But the king never forgot his people. He knew what lay outside of his protective rule and his provision for them. And it grieved his heart to think about what the future held for these wayward ones. Time after time, he would intervene in their lives, sending messengers to them, trying and communicating his love and concern for them. But they were stubborn people, and they wouldn't listen. And then as time wore on, they simply grew deaf to the message altogether. It became mixed in with lots of other messages from counterfeit rulers who also wanted their allegiance and loyalty. He became, in their minds, just one king among many others. Kings, by their nature, are generally set apart from their people. They live in fine palaces with lots of splendor and majesty surrounding him. So this king, the one true king, decided he would make a visit. He would leave the glory of his home and come into the midst of his people that he longed so much for. But he knew that if he came in a manner that was befitting a king, with trumpeters and chariots and soldiers and horses, dressed in his fine royal robes, it might be too much for them. The kind of relationship that he wanted with them would be hindered by all the trappings of his majesty. They might be tempted to say yes to him just out of deference for the moment and awe for all his splendor, and never get a chance to see his true heart and learn his true intentions for them. So he decided he would visit them. He decided he would visit them in a way that wouldn't be threatening. He'd come among them as one of their own, an ordinary man. He would live, eat, dress, walk, talk, just like one of them. And that's what he did. One day, the king made a visit and came and lived amongst his own people. But the thing is, he wasn't just an ordinary man. He was the king. He didn't look like it, he didn't act like it, but there was something about him that caused many people to know that he was different. Some were drawn to him, sensing that he was someone special, someone very special. Others felt threatened by him, and they just wanted him gone, out of their lives. So the visit was cut short. His opposition won, and he was arrested and tried on some trumped-up charges, and the sentence was set: death. The king who loved his people, who faithfully sought after them to win them back from their rebellious ways, this king was killed as a common criminal. They laid his lifeless body in an empty tomb and thought they were done with him. They walked away, wiping their hands, thinking the job was over. This threat to their chosen way of life was gone forever, dealt with once and for all. But that's not the end of the tale. For again, you know this story. You know that 3 days later, the tomb was found to be empty. The king rose in quiet victory over death, and he returned to his magnificent splendor and glory. But those who recognized him during his visit never forgot him. In fact, in some supernatural way, he remains with them, guiding them and teaching them about the life that he had planned for them. And by his presence, they began to truly live and follow him as the one true king. They shared the good news of the king with others, and they began to follow him too. And the story lives on in the lives of those who faithfully pass it from one generation to the next. The story of the visit of the king who loved his people so much that he came among them to win their hearts. He showed them what true love looks like, how a full life can be lived, even in the midst of trouble and pain. For those who are able to see him for who he truly is, he is able to forgive them of their rebellion and their sin. And he promised that he would return again, another visit. This time he wouldn't hide his majesty or his splendor. He would come in all of his kingly glory and bring his own to be back with him. And for those who've rejected his love and his rightful rule over them, he will give them what they want. He'll leave them alone forever to contend with the consequences of their rebellion. We love stories, don't we? They're powerful vehicles for communication. We use them to teach our children about life and about their heritage, who they are and where they come from. It's also the main vehicle that Jesus used when he was teaching the people. Parables, stories. He would take common, ordinary things and use them to teach us about life, about God, about ourselves. Because the story of our lives doesn't end at the grave. Where our tale leads depends upon the choices that we make in this life. Millions of choices made throughout the span of a single life. And especially one particular choice. The choice about what we believe about him. Whether we realize it or not, Jesus is the central character in each and every one of our stories. We gather every Christmas to hear the wonderful story of his birth, because it's the most wonderful story of all. It's told every year. It's depicted in cards. There's pageants and plays put on. There's movies made. Wonderful musicians compose beautiful songs. Great artists do magnificent works of art. It's a story that captivates us this time of year. Even people who really don't think about Jesus much the rest of the year, it's still something about it that's captivating. For some reason, people listen. Why is that? Well, I think it's because deep within us, at the very core of our being, it touches something in our hearts, and it brings out the light that for most of us stays hidden too often. We think about good things, about kindness and generosity, and making people happy and letting people know how much they mean to us. We take the time to notice beautiful lights and decorations, to enjoy all the food that's part of our celebrations. I mean, there's just no denying it. Christmas has a huge impact on our lives. The story of Jesus' visit connects with us this time of year, and that's a good thing. It's a very good thing. And because it has the power to connect, it also has the power to change. To make the goodness that we see in ourselves and in others around us something that we want to make part of our lives all the time. It gives us hope that there's something more to this life, because there's someone out there who cares. Someone who's big enough and powerful enough to make change possible, to make things different, to make us different. There's a picture I posted on our church Facebook page to announce our Christmas services this year. It's a new picture for me. Some of you know I like to troll the internet for icons and religious artwork. It's one of my hobbies. And I found this painting by Gary Melchers. He's a late 19th century, early 20th century American artist. And it's simply called The Nativity. It shows the Holy Family, Mary, Joseph, and the baby, what looks like just moments after his birth. Mary is sitting on the floor, evidently exhausted from the birth experience. Baby is slumbering very peacefully in the manger, and Joseph is just gazing at him in wonder. completely silent and just in awe at the mystery that lays before him. You can feel the silence and the awe just by looking at the picture, that this incredible miracle has happened with no one to see it but the two of them. God made man, Emmanuel, God with us. The king visiting his subjects as one of their own. Mother Teresa likes to call it Jesus in his distressing disguise. It's the most important story ever told. And it's my privilege this night to share it with you once again. So treasure it up in your hearts and don't let it slip away. Bring it out again and again and ponder this great mystery. Don't pack it away in a few days with the lights and the ornaments. Let it stay there. Keep it close to you. Open your heart to receive this precious gift that you've been given. For unto us a child is born. Unto us a son is given. And the government will be upon his shoulders, and he will be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. Amen.